What's up, boys? Today I'm gonna be teaching you guys a cool TvT build. It is the 111 expand. You probably seen me do it before. It's like the Reaper Hellion aggression with the Liberator and then just transitioning it to a normal macro game. This build is good for both mech and bio, so whichever you prefer is gonna be fine. I'm gonna show you guys a game against Clem, because that's what you do as a YouTuber. You know, you highlight the people of the moment, and of course we have our bright shining star over here who is gonna be highlighted today. This was a pretty straightforward game, I think, so this is a good way to highlight it. Anyway, what I like about this build is that it's really simple. Like I said before, guys, I'm probably going to be doing a really big early game TvT guide later on, but it's going to be a big video. It's going to take a lot of work, and for now I just wanted to give you guys a nice build to go with. And this build is very simple, pretty good against anything, so you don't have to worry about all that early game stuff too much. So yeah, it's gonna be a gas first, double gas. You guys know the drill. I'm gonna go for a standard gas cut as well, which means we're gonna take one worker out of each gas after starting the factory. This is also the only way to do this build. Factory starts, and then we take one out of each gas. Make a depot. This is a important thing to notice when you're playing double gas in general with this build too, but in general as well, is that if someone SCV scouts, it's more likely that they're playing Reaper expand and not double gas themselves, which enables you to put on some pressure. If you do this build, because this build is kind of preparing for a later timing attack, it is a bit risky, however. Normally, if you play against a Reaper expand, you would like to move out with your 2 Reapers and your Hellion, because the guy's just gonna have 1 Reaper, like in this case you can see. But I think here I'm gonna play safe. Now here I was autopiloting a bit. I wanted to make the command center, but this is the difference between normal builds. Even though you cut the gas, you do get the starport before the command center. It's a 1-on-1 expand. Now, something important is that, yeah, because of the SCV scout, I knew it was no proxy Reaper. But normally, try to be safe with your first Reaper. You can check around a little bit, but only for about 3 to 5 seconds. So then you have to go back into your base, because else you might be caught by 2 Reapers. Because it's going to be 1 Reaper versus 1 Reaper at the start, and then he is going to have 2 Reapers with a proxy Reaper. So you can leave the base for 3 seconds, but then you have to go back inside, wait for your units, just to be safe if you think it might be a proxy Reaper. And I believe that is the only threat you can face at the start. So a very rare build is actually the Proxy Marauder. That's a build that it's gonna be good against this. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say about that. If you manage to find it, you can always out micro your way out. You can make a bunker when you realize it's going on, but it's gonna be a lot on the micro to make it worth, and then on the Liberator to get some damage done. So here you see the main part of the build order. You're preparing for a 4 Reaper, 4 Hellion, 1 Liberator timing attack. You one thing I should mention is that the only thing you have to do with your gas, this may be a little bit complicated, so pay attention here, is that normally, I told you pull 1 out of each gas, right? Normally you saturate them when you have 16 on the minerals again. But with this build, you have to saturate them when you have 15. So you can actually afford the 4th Reaper and the Liberator at the same time. So you want to saturate the gases when you have 15 on minerals, and not at 16 with this build order. Which is usually after you drop the starport. That's when you put them back into the gas. Then you get the command center down. As you can see, it's a very simple build. I'm not scouting or anything. I feel very safe. Now, one thing you have to do is, before you move out, this Liberator is going to go into the main. In some funky versions, you put it in a natural as well, but then it just gets a bit weird. So for simplicity, we're just going to send it to the main. It's like a nice... Oh, I already shift clicked it, as you can see. And then the rest is going to go at the front. But after this, after these 3 units finish, you're going to be making add-ons. So you want to scout around with these units, like, I don't know, just 10 seconds before you move out to see if any Reapers are hidden around your base. Something like that. Just so you know he's not going to randomly jump in while you're actually out. So here we go. Reactor's going to finish. When your saturation is complete, 16 on minerals, 3 on each gas, you're going to start rallying down to your natural. And you're going to make the 3rd gas. And this is the super standard setup. Reactor in the barracks, Tech Lab factory, Tech Lab starport, of course. So now Lib is going out. As you can see, I scouted around a little bit to see if there's any Reapers around. 3rd gas is going to go down. And then, yeah. This is the setup you're going for. You're going to have your CC coming down, 3rd gas, add-ons. Liberator is going into the main. And the rest of the units, 4 Hellions, 4 Reapers, are going to go at the front. Now, one adaptation you could make is that if you do it in a tournament, for example, and your opponent is aware of this build, or you know that your opponent always leaves a lot of stuff in the main, like imagine you know your opponent leaves a Cyclone and a Viking in the main, whatever, then you could actually consider putting the Liberator on the front, on the ramp, so it's going to be hard for him to come down with the Cyclone, and you can kill everything for free. But this is what the standard version looks like. Another thing is that, as you can see, this is what pretty much all the games are going to look like. The Terran is going to push back and try to defend. But in some cases, the other Terran could be doing an aggressive build that hits kind of when you're hitting, such as Reaper Expand, 8 Hellion, 1 Liberator. Or the Maru build, like 1 Reaper Reactor and then hit with a Medevac, 5 Reapers and 3 Hellions, it is, I believe. Now, if you meet those builds, since your Liberator is going to hit way earlier than any harassment they have, you usually just go back with these units and send the Liberator in to get the free damage, and then you defend at home with your Cyclone Raven stuff. Here you can see how it works. It's quite a big army, so all the units are going to need to be here, including the Cyclone. Meanwhile, Liberator sieges up in the main. And also, don't underestimate these units. Against this, if the Cyclone is out of position, it actually dies very fast. The Cyclone is really not a unit you have to be super afraid of. Of course, now he has his units together, so I need to be wise with my units. But if it's a Cyclone and just a few Reapers, you can totally go for the Cyclone in most cases. You see, even here, I'm trading very evenly with all the units. Now I notice that my Reapers are low and I'm getting out. Liberator has 5 kills and, more importantly, no mining time. And that's going to be all it for the opener. Of course, if you can save the Lib, always save it. Like, his Cyclone was going to come back up, right, to kill it. So you really shouldn't be trading a Lib for, like, let's say 4 seconds more of mining time. If you can save it, you always save it. Because Liberators are really annoying at TvT. It's like, if there's one, you're always going to have to leave units at home. If your opponent is an F2er, there's going to be holes in his defense and stuff. It's always very useful. If you have an even air battle, but you have an extra Liberator, you can actually win the game with that just by sieging your tanks and stuff. Yeah, meanwhile at home, you just go for double Raven, Marine Tank. Obviously, if you see... get 1 Cyclone, then tanks. If you see that there's Banshees on the way, you can consider getting a 2nd Cyclone. Otherwise, you can make 0 or 1, depending on your preference, I guess. I think I was just trying to be safe this game. I didn't have a particular reason to build it. It's totally fine to just go into tanks if you don't see any threat. And that's it. 3rd CC goes down. Also, never forget to take your gases on time. This gas is even a little bit too late for my liking. Like, all our stuff in this phase is so gas expensive, you're gonna have to want to get stim. Also, this is the point where you decide if it's buy or mech. I would always recommend getting the Vikings after this build. That's just a playstyle I like. And then, also, even if you play mech, you should do this just to fake it out in case. Actually, I think that's exactly what happens this game. I'm even I'm even gonna make Stim, and he's, because it's me and I have a mech reputation, he's still thinking I'm playing mech. But yeah, this is when you make the difference. Now, I've heard complaints before about eBay first by lower level Terrans, because I really like to go straight from 1-1 to a double eBay. But I've heard from some of my friends that they think it's really hard to defend stuff. So I think it's actually fine to go 3 racks before the eBays. But yeah, if you're good at defending, I think eBays first are probably better. I'm not even sure what I do this game. Both versions are totally fine. If you're confident in your defense, you have the 2 Ravens, Vikings tanks after all, you can totally go for 2 eBays first. If you want to feel safe, just put down those extra barracks. It's no big deal, really. As you can see, I'm just a decent bit ahead. Not an extreme amount, but just a little bit ahead. A comfortable lead, I would say. Here are the eBays. This might seem surprising to a lot of people, but you actually need to take your 5th and 6th gas fast as well. It's kind of weird because in other matchups, Terrans always have overgas, but in TvT you actually need to take your gases fast because you make so many Vikings and the upgrades and the stim and the tanks all at once that, yeah. Well, now we have a random fight coming up. Just a small tip, in a fight like this, always use the auto turrets and not the interference matrix. Interference matrix is more like if you're owning a fight already and you don't want the tanks to shoot again, you matrix the tanks. If you are peeking away at the opponent's tanks and you just want to siege 2 in range, you can interference matrix. But if you're a quick head-on battle, always use the auto turrets. You see, auto turrets are going to do so much work. If I interference matrix, I probably would have gotten owned here pretty hard. But these turrets give me the upper hand. And yeah. So now, as you can see, I played WA first, even with the 6 gases, even though I'm not mining from them yet. I still don't have enough money to start, enough gas to start upgrades, even though I'm practically there. And that's where it's time to go for 4 more barracks. Yeah, this is just a complete standard setup for TvT. Doing some uThermal micro memes here, apparently. I feel like this happens in every video. I'm like, I do some random micro shit that I forgot about, and I'm like, oh look, I did this. Oh well. Okay, here's the extra barracks. I feel like you don't really need to scan the opponent until you need to make add-ons on your barracks. Like, so sometimes when you're scared, you can scan. Like, I'm not sure what I know this game exactly. I know he has a 3rd, so I'm not really afraid of anything. I even saw the stim researching. But if you don't have any vision, I would recommend you to scan, like... Yeah, right now is a good timing. Your barracks are getting pretty close to finishing, and you need to know if you want to make tech labs or reactors, right? Actually, it's 10 SCVs. Rude. As you can see, we have our standard setup now. Gonna add a sensor tower here, or maybe in the natural. This is pretty much preference, by the way. Since I play with a bunch of Vikings, I don't think I really need 2 sensor towers. But if you want to feel safe, it's totally fine. Like on TvT, TvT is the one matchup where I would say don't skip out on defenses. Like, a lot of the fights are down to positioning, unit composition and stuff, instead of just sheer amount of units. So if you want to feel safe and you want to make 2 sensor towers, just do it. As you can see, I also put down turrets. Clem decides not to put any static defense. It's mostly just preference, I think. I just don't like getting dropped, so I put a bit more static defense than other Terrans, and that's totally fine. If you want to add a double sensor tower, please go for it. I usually just make 1. I have my rally here somewhere and the sensor tower here to cover, and for me that's enough. As you can see, the advantage that I set of this build are actually paying off, because he clearly thinks I'm playing mech. And that's because this build works really well into mech, works really well into bio, and I think maybe my low marine count during his first attack, because I went for 2 eBays first, put him off a little bit and made him think I was playing mech. another TvT macro game tip is this bad boy over here should be really fast always. There's no reason to make your 8 barracks before your 4th or anything like that. As you can see, his is almost done. Mine is over halfway. Just build it fast. Like, you build it before your 1-1 is done. It's just yeah, just get it really fast. It's really good. It's really good to get a position on the map with the planetary as well. And like I said, it's not like 8 more Marines are gonna make a fast difference. It's all about them tanks, the Vikings, the positioning and stuff. Then the next thing you can adapt in, which is also very much about your style, is that after the fort you can get a second factory, or you get actually 3 more barracks. I think in theory second factory is better, personally. I kind of look at the upgrades, like when I feel like I'm ahead in upgrades I like to get extra barracks, because being ahead in marine upgrades is totally OP, so I just like to make things happen, and that's it. This is probably the moment where he realizes that I don't have a lot of Hellions and stuff, and I'm actually playing Bio, so feels bad for him. And now, this is actually what I would recommend to do. If you did skip on defenses earlier, once you get more bases, you actually want to make more sensor towers, because you're going to be out on the map more, and one drop can honestly end you. So just, if you didn't get it before, get it now with your 4th base. Or if you don't move out, then it's okay, but when you move out, you definitely want to have your sensor towers in place. Now, another question I get a lot is, how many Vikings do I build? And there's only one answer, really. And the answer is to have 2 more than your opponent. Like, I have actually lost games because I'm a bit of a Viking spammer. I've lost games because I've ended with like 14 Vikings against 2. And that's just stupid. You know, it's too much. It's useless. So usually what you try to do is have either as many or just a bit more than your opponent and make medevacs. I would say, with this build especially, you make 6, and then you get into medevacs, and then if you realize he's actually making more Vikings, you make more as well. That's a good guideline to go by. You make 6 Vikings, and then if you don't need any more, you never make any more. If you notice your opponent's making Vikings, you start making more. Like right now, he's just a bit in a shitty position because he doesn't have enough, and now he needs to start making more. It's really annoying for him to deal with. Nice big brain siege up over there. Let's look at the upgrades. Yeah. Also, always click on the Marines. Like, the exact timing that 2-2 finishes, 1-1 finish is so important. Like, a 2-2 against 1-1 fight is actually insane. If you have like a full-on Marine fight, like just pretend there's no tanks, the 2-2 Marines win so hard. Like, it's actually nuts. So you actually need to, every time you scan, every time you get a vision of Marine, you always click on them. It's kind of hard work, but it's very necessary. Like, so this game is gonna end in 1 minute. I'm not sure exactly how this is gonna line up, but as you can see, it is quite likely that I actually get a fight while I have better upgrades. And yeah, you can just lose the game like that. You can see we're both maxed, and the game ends in 1 minute. So the only thing I can imagine is that he takes a bad fight against better upgrades, even though my +2 attack is a bit delayed. Let's see what happens here. As you can see, he also put down multiple sensor towers. He has marine spotters, unlike me. This is a very good thing to do, but I'm a bit of an F2E Terran, so sometimes when I panic, it doesn't work out for me, but always try to be on top of your marine spotters. And here you go, it's gonna be a fight ahead in upgrades. His marines have no chance to cover their tanks. And just like that, looks like it's gonna be game. He lost 5 tanks there. He actually had so many more tanks than me. This is a good example of why I don't really like playing multiple factories, because you're so reliant on your mechanical unit count tanks and Vikings that sometimes you're just out of position and you get owned because your army is not mobile, not really flexible. So if you're like the kind of Terran that likes to have, in theory, the best style and try to not make any mistakes, then 2 Factory is probably really good for you. But if you're like me and you like to punish mistakes and you like to make moves, be fast with your army, then the Adrex style is definitely good for you. As you can see, I have so many more Marines than him, and I can just run around. And I caught him out of position twice, and looks like that's gonna be it. This is also 2-2 against 1-1, as you can see. His Marines have no chance at all. I know I'm not the greatest observer, my apologies. But yeah, that's gonna be it. I really hope to see you guys try this build out. I think it's a really cool build. The first time I saw this build was by Chinese Terran Coffee in WCS Winter NA, actually. And I have good memories of this build because I had a time in 2019 where I was so good in TvT and won every time, and I was spamming this build so hard. And I beat TY and Bunny with this in IM Katowice. So for me, it's a really good build. A lot of people know that I use it, so I need to be a bit smarter of when I put it in series and stuff. But I think you guys can definitely try it out. Let me know if you have any success with it. I hope my random TvT macro tips in between helped you out as well. And yeah, don't forget to comment, subscribe and like, and see you all for the next one.